Propenomix people, and welcome to a special edition of the podcast in which I'm going to go through an article I wrote for the industry periodical Property Investor News. If you don't already subscribe, I think you should strongly consider it. It's the most serious magazine in the industry, containing a lot of factual and data-based articles. You can tell why I love it and probably also why I'm asked to write for it. So before I get cracking with that article though, just wanted to tell you about a property business workshop that my business partner Rod Turner and myself are running on Wednesday the 24th of April in London. We ran one in January, which had a lot of everything from productivity hacks and some general mindset stuff, all the way up to what makes a good investment and how to break down a deal. But this one is going to be covering due diligence, both on business partners and as a borrower and a lender, joint ventures, mergers and acquisitions, and also we're going to include some real life case studies on some of the deals that we've done. It's sure to be popular. If you Google Adam G. Lawrence Property Business Workshop, you'll soon find the link for the tickets. That's Wednesday the 24th of April. So thank you. So on with the article, which is called Election Ahead, How Best to Protect Your Property Investments, Apart from Selling. So it's inevitable at some point this year, if you aren't already, that you will spend some time in a relatively anxious state around the upcoming election. It takes a hardcore true believer to not worry about the government of the day. Look at the horrors of the Scottish rental market thanks to the influence of Patrick Harvey of the Green Party coalition. Sorry, it isn't a coalition, is it? It's just an agreement, whatever. In many ways, the better result, as has been argued of late, is a solid Labour majority, avoiding having to pander to the hard left. The wild card of Angela Rayner should still remain a concern to many, though, because her true ideology is yet to be revealed in my view. I'd highly recommend those who can stomach it, which you really should, listen to her interview on the leading podcast by the hosts of the most popular pod in the UK, The Rest is Politics. I won't influence thoughts, but if anyone does listen on the back of reading this, I'd love you to message me your thoughts via LinkedIn, Adam G. Lawrence. Thanks in advance. So, the point of being asked to write this article was on the back of the January workshop that we did, that I've already told you about, and I wanted to talk about what was coming out of that. And one of the things that happens to me all the time, a lot of people joke and say I've got attention deficit disorder in the business sense because I spin a lot of plates. A lot of people say to me my regular Sunday article would be a full-time job for most people. But I get it done by brutally compartmentalising my time, whilst making sure I'm trying to use it as effectively as I can, and ensuring that I don't hurry people along when it's unnecessary to do so. It's a difficult balance. It would be too easy to pander to what's already going on in the market anyway, although Hamptons International's 50,004 new buy-to-let company incorporations in 2023, which they recently reported on, tells us that not everyone is getting out of the game. But it'd be too easy to advise selling before the market is ruined by Labour. A more balanced viewpoint might well be that the glory days have already been ended by this incumbent government and collective thoughts. Since 2015, they decided to seem to smash the PRS to pieces. That's still overdramatic though. My realistic take is instead that returns take a different tack these days, and that we shouldn't forget what makes the money. Let me give you an example. We stack our deals differently these days, and in fact we stack them in a way that we always should have done, and now we do it this way. We look at the first 10 years of the lifespan of the asset and likely cash flows in and out. We take a view on capital growth, disposal costs, capital outgoings based on the fact that the roof, or the windows, or the boiler, or whatever, might not last that 10 years. We make better decisions on the back of it. Time will tell if they're more accurate, but I'd be very disappointed if they aren't. Is that the bearish side? Maybe, but you haven't asked what we're factoring in for rent increases. Significant and also variable depending on where in the country. And also capital growth. Also significant. Many people, particularly those who've been long in the game, hold this belief that capital growth is over or has run or is running out of steam. I would again reframe this. The major bull markets of short timescale should be behind us, but 2020 to 2022 shows us that they aren't. Yes, the pandemic is an event of epic proportions, but further crises will happen again and again. 1.3 million net migrants over a 2-year period into a country delivering 250,000 new units per year, when the average migrant household is 1.25 people strong, also makes a massive difference. And whilst we are assured net migration is back under control, I suspect that still looks like 450,000 or so people per year for the moment net. That's before we consider expanding life expectancy, and we should be back there very soon, COVID obviously having left a scar on the statistics, as well as the psyches. We all know the fundamentals, and it's widely accepted that 350,000 plus units per year are needed net. Even if Labour became the first political party in history to keep a promise, their promise is only 300,000 per year for 5 years. That's another 250,000 houses short. And if we were betting whether they will hit that target or not, where would your money be? I think I know. Wipe away the tears of laughter or empathy or other emotion. We know in our hearts that real house prices have overcorrected, as I've written out about before, many times of late. The gap below the trend line of inflation-adjusted house prices is significant. Those who think capital growth is over are, frankly, well wrong, as the kids would say. This remains the very best asset class of them all in terms of risk-adjusted returns. It still takes effort and mental strength, of course, but it might be time to defend this year and get election fit. I'd highly recommend it. But what does that look like? Firstly, cut costs to the bone without being short-sighted. No luxuries. Spend time effectively. If you are looking to expand, as per last month's article, work out what you need to do and spend your working time doing it. Anything else is a distraction. Are agents overcharging? Change them. Interview their replacements like you would a life partner or a business partner. They are an important part of your business. Do you run your portfolio with some staff instead? Do the same to them. Who's got their feet well under the table? It's short, sharp shock time. Next, map out the likely asset management strategies per property. New roof needed soon? New windows? Other significant capex that will take years to wash out? Maybe do consider getting rid. Reinvest though, buy well, because the market is very favourable for buying right now, and it might be a generational opportunity. Selling is hard, but it has picked up. List soon, stage well, present beautifully, and then buy something that has been stagnating on the market for 6 months or more. Pretty simple when you say it like that, isn't it? Continue that approach with rents. Where are they? Are they optimised? They need to be. If you've put off a difficult conversation for years, it is now a really, really difficult one. However, even if there's a 2% chance of a rent cap, you need to defend against that. If the tenancy falls apart, then it's a new tenant at the market rent. I'm sorry to be so brutal, but this is a survival guide, not a cuddle. Are you embroiled in one of the aforementioned, challenged, destroyed by tax policy associates' work of late avoidance schemes? Get into unwinding it, sharpish. The last thing you will need is a scary looking tax bill if and when things have changed. I can reveal, exclusively here, that one policy Labour are considering is forcing landlords to sell tenanted properties to other landlords, i.e. removing the rights to regain vacant possession on sale. Don't panic, I don't think they will do it. Actually, I was incredibly excited to learn this, however, because, of course, I'd be a buyer, although I do have to worry about what a revaluation might look like. This is why we need a significant majority rather than a limping one, if indeed it is time to send Mr. Sunak to the political glue factory. Organise, invest, mitigate tax, reinvest if you have the appetite, and go after significant net cash flow, particularly if you need to balance a low-yielding, hopefully high capital growth, if not, why are you holding this asset, portfolio. No one ever went bust when the cash flowed positive. Don't underestimate advanced, harder work operational tactics either. HMO. I can honestly say I have not been this bullish on HMO since 2016, when I first became aware of the single banding by the VOA. I exited professional HMO then, although I have dipped toes back in hence. But that problem has evaporated thanks to the strong work of the HMO Council Tax Reform Group. The attractiveness of the bills included offering, even if the energy crisis is behind us and of course risks remain to the upside, plus the cost pressure on tenants as a rule in this inflationary environment, plus that stat around the average household size of the people who make up the massive net migration of the past 2 years, 1.25 people per household. All roads lead to Rome here, don't they? HMOs never look so good. According to Octane Capital, The sector shrunk by 21,000 HMOs in their most recent figures, which are now somewhat out of date. And according to Spare Room, the rents are up 12% year on year on new lets. What more could you want? Short lets are more difficult. There are the Section 24 advantages and capital allowances to consider, both good pieces of reasoning. Then there's the no tenants approach, although guests are no doubt more difficult than tenants as a rule, but they don't have the same rights, I hear you say, and you're right. Bills are up and competition is up, but in terms of levelling up, there are more contractors than ever before living somewhere in the week and somewhere else at the weekend. Get the offering right, including a weekend solution, and you've got a real proposition. The rising private rents, and that not necessarily filtering through onto Booking.com and the likes, are a fairly big mark in the negative column, of course. You still might want to consider them, though. If there's a big legislative change, then you might be looking at grandfather rights, which by themselves also create value. And then we have social housing. LHA rates up 35% or more in some places, coming to a benefits office near you come April 2024. The rates were required to be published for sure on the 31st of January 2024, although I'm actually recording this in February and I still can't find them. Hopefully by the time that we get to the end of the month, they'll be widely available on the government website. One might be tempted to suggest that Labour will push some more money in this direction. The counter-argument would be that the money simply won't be there. Let's not forget Mr Hunt has left a poison pill of austerity, as he needed to placate the international bond markets after Liz the Lettuce and her wingman did their worst in the mini budget. Let's just be grateful it wasn't a maxi budget, if that was their idea of a mini one. Still, the sector looks to be robust and is growing. As asylum backlogs get cleared, this sector, and temporary accommodation, just gets bigger and bigger. Then, the above also makes a good argument to hold hard in the private sector. If all these other dwellings are being repurposed, who's offering the single-family homes? A two-income family near a secondary school should be an attractive tenancy, particularly if that school is highly rated. Affordability will vary from area to area, but I'd take a close look at this in your target areas or preferred geographies, assuming you have them. 90% plus of investors do, in my experience. The largest skill of them all, however, in order to survive this election year, is the ability to manage that anxiety that we all feel in these situations. Investors don't like change, for good reason. Why rock the boat? If it ain't broke, don't fix it, etc. There's only one remaining piece of advice for that. Keep calm and carry on.